The digital art era is here. AI and art creation tools empower anyone to make it. Blockchain technologies allow anyone to own it. VR, AR, and extended reality immerse us in it. Let's talk to artists and innovators behind the visual magic. I'm your host, Roger Dickerman. Welcome to the future of art. Today, we welcome Pablo Fraile. Pablo is a mathematician, an investor, and a digital art patron. He, along with partner Desiree, curates the RFC collection, an interdisciplinary art collection that champions contemporary digital mediums. The contents of this collection are swiftly becoming historic in nature. Want two examples, two recent milestones? One, the co-donation of Unsupervised by Rafiq Anadol to the permanent collection of the Museum of Modern Art. Two, alongside One of One Art, seeing Human One by Beeple in the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. Pablo is thoughtful, he is nuanced, he does not shy away from productive debate. That is what I appreciate most about him. Please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation and his depth of experience. Let's get to it. Pablo Fraile, welcome to the future of art.
Thank you very much for having me, Roger. It's a big pleasure to be with you here.
I feel this is one of those dialogues. We've known each other for a few years now. So much has happened over the course of those few years. I feel like this is a conversation that can go 25 different ways, and I hope we get to cover at least half of those points.
I hope so. I'm very excited. Again, you've been here with us, since inception, and so many stories, so many narratives that we can share. I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful conversation. So thank you again for the opportunity and for having me.
There's only one real fixed question. It happens right off of the jump, and here it is for you. What does art mean to you? How would you define it?
Oh, that's an incredible question, and I don't think it's a question that I have a great answer to, but I would define art as anything that is made with the intention to create, and I believe that the intention from the creator is what makes the art the art. Now, that would be my definition of art, if that makes any sense. What is art to me? I think that is. Please, would it be possible if I might come back to this later in the conversation for what it does to me? I want to think about that in a little bit more depth.
Why don't we switch it from the opener to the closer? We'll have all episode to think about it. We're about to talk about some wonderful art, and then we can come back to it.
I love it. Fantastic.
Okay, so let me get your inspiration off to a great start. So people cannot see, we can see one another, but people cannot see us right now. And you have a very interesting display and backdrop, and I'd love for you to use that as just get warmed up. Talk about a few different art pieces and a few different things that are meaningful to you.
Certainly, and thank you very much for pointing that out, because it's something that together with my wife, that we have the RFC collection together. We've always been very focused in this conversation between the physical and the digital, whether it's through the collection or through our activities, through other programs like Airist or other things that we have done. We want to elevate digitally native artists that are creating or manifesting their works also in a physical way. We believe that at the end of the day, we're humans. And as much as it's extraordinarily exciting and fantastic, everything that we're seeing on the digital, I think that the experience and the engaging that you have with art on a physical in a physical way, in this case, still goes a little bit above and beyond what might happen on the digital. I like being with people. I like experiencing things together, and this is our way of living with digitally native art that I think is extraordinarily valid. In this case, I have, in this particular room, by the way, I know that people cannot see this, but we would love to host you in our home, in our residence, at your convenience next time, because we have gone to extraordinarily big lengths to actually show and exhibit the works or a selection of works from the collection in a way that feels mature, that feels sophisticated, that it feels in conversation with some of the analog work, some of the design, and with the overall, atmosphere that we're trying to have here at home. And we have done so very meticulously, trying to always use museum standard qualities. We do frame and hand things, not only measured but highly curated, and we do have the screens with hardware. The works that need monitors and have and need hardware, we have specialized hardware, so there's no looping at the end of the, if it's a video, or you don't get the circle that goes around and is loading, so that it is extremely high quality, so that the aspect ratio is exactly what you're looking for. And again, we're very, very, very diligent on this. But in particular here, here to my left, you see one of the early works from Beeple that also have this physical. This actually is a work that it's from the spring collection on 2021, I believe. Wow, time does fly. Time does fly. And it's a fantastic collection, in my opinion, the precursors to Beeple's kinetic sculptures, which to me are one of the most important works that have arisen in this domain ever. And these are the first time that people really very thoughtfully consider how am I going to show these digital creations in a way that can also be physically manifested and collected and live with. So I have the full set of the Beeple release. From that release, I do have as well, one of the works that were distributed at Beeple Studios in the opening through the airdrop, the real life physical airdrop that also has a digital and the physical. I have a small work by Sofia Crespo. That is lovely. Sofia Crespo is right now, well, for a long time, but right now an obsession of mine for many things. I think she's going to be extraordinarily relevant. I think she has all the ingredients to really be at the forefront of the digital domain. I think her mastery digital tools combined with her narrative and her visual approach are fit very, very, very well in both domains, and she's gonna do very, very, very well. I love her. I have a work by Andreas Reisinger that people that know me know that I have a special place for Andreas Reisinger. He was probably the artist that really made me see beyond what was happening also in the crypto art space. I have a work by Michael Kagan that has also been an early adopter of this technology, one of the few ones that came from the more traditional analog world and have done some releases here. I have a physical by Daniel Ashram. I have a few. These are amazing. These are old magazines. One of Dali, one of Tesla, and one of Picasso. This was a gift from Bitbus, a great person, a great advocate, a great ambassador for the space. He has been here very consistently and very honestly for a very long time, a big contributor. So he's great. And then I have a big Quayola work here that again, this is direct how Quayola, even though he's a digital artist, this is how the work was conceived to be manifested physically in this in this town. I have his hand, and I have one of my favorite works in the collection now as well here with me in my office, which is Sofia Crespo's latest release, a single edition release, which is inspired by Luigi Serafini's Codex Serafinius. I can never pronounce it properly. And again, a series that I think it's going to be doing extraordinary things moving forward. This is a small pocket of what we're trying to show here in the collection. In the home. The home is my primary is our primary exhibition space, and perhaps maybe this is a podcast and not a visual. I doesn't have the visuals, but maybe another time we can do a little bit of a video walkthrough of how we're working with the collection.
Would love that. Would be honored. We'll put a lot of effort into showing it just so and trying to give people the replicated feel of walking through it. Now, to go back to something that you said when you were talking about Sophia, you said you believe she has the right ingredients to navigate the digital domain. What do you mean by the right ingredients?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and one that I really like that you made. But I believe that talent right now is it's present. Let me say this without being but a little bit commoditized, meaning it's available. There's a lot of talented people, a lot of talented creatives in the new generation, in my opinion, which is a beautiful thing. But in my view, it takes a lot more than just talent in order to have a successful long-term career. And this starts in life with discipline. In my opinion, this continues with having mastery of your tools. This continues with having not a roadmap, but a vision of where you're trying to get. This also starts by having education about where you're coming from yourself as a creative, what you're learning from your experiences, how you're applying and evolving on your practice. It also comes with a good personality, and this is something that I'm very, very focused on, because I think there's something that people don't really sometimes miss. Some artists sometimes miss. The majority of collectors on the higher end of the spectrum, on the higher end of the market, it's usually collectors that are traditionally successful, that are used to being accomplished in what they do, that are that when they want something, when they want to achieve something, they do whatever is necessary around it to achieve it. And what they have is a lot of positive things, but they don't have time for what they don't want to do. And the moment that you, because this digital ecosystem really opens up yourself to being in contact with your collectors, with your audience, with your, with the people around that support you, with the groups around that support you, I really believe that not having the right personality can be a huge hindrance in the space. So I really focus on that. And honestly, on a personal level, I just don't want to deal with people I don't like. So that is one thing. And then again, I do like thoughtful approaches. I do think that that artists that are just feeling talented and releasing is not it is not an optimal decision for them. And again, I think that artists should be really thoughtful about what they release, how they release it, where they release it, and with whom they do things. Yeah.
So take those ingredients and how you just frame them, and let's talk about how an artwork enters your collection, and maybe whether that's changed from, let's say, 2020, 2021. Now, fast forwarding, here we sit in 2023. Has your process for acquiring an artwork into the RFC collection changed at all?
Absolutely, it has actually, as everybody, I also gain experience through time, and I don't claim that I have all the knowledge, and not only the taste, but the vision. And with new information, new decisions are made. The reality is that if I had to make the big difference, at first I was more focused on the works that I liked. So that meant that I was, learning and focusing on those works that really attracted me and that spoke to me. And that is still the case. However, that is not a sufficient condition now by itself. That is just one of the conditions that needs to happen for it. For this, the reality is that one of the good things about digital art is also one of the bad things. Is that it really opened up the gates and really is very inclusive in the ability to produce and create. But it also means that there's going to be there's a big oversupply. Not only of singular works, but in general, there's a lot of creatives. There's a lot of new digital artworks coming to the space. This is going to be even more with the inclusion of AI, to the point where it's important. This is a very long way for me to saying there's just not enough bandwidth in the world to be following all of the information, all of the activity, everything in the world. So now what I do is that I focus on obviously a work or a conversation or something draws my attention. I then go and look at the artist. I try and meet the artist. I research everything around the artist. I like to, again, to learn all of these things that we just discussed about around how I make my choices. And then if I like that, then I support the artist comprehensively. And that is both in the acquisition of not one work, but many works, and also in many of the forms or the activities that I've been doing with artists since inception as a collector and as a patron, which go well above and beyond just acquisition of works. So I've narrowed the amount of artists that I support, and I just support them a lot more comprehensively across the board, fully. So that's the big change. Yeah.
Let me ask a question a little bit of a different way. Let's say you were onboarding someone. Let's say there's someone listening to this very conversation, and they have not been collecting much art, but they entered through PFP culture or through another angle of the vast digital space. But now they're here and they're listening to you, and they see, obviously, you're a long-standing, respected collector with a wonderful collection who's done amazing things, and they're interested. How would you advise them to get started, assuming they have very little art, let's say, knowledge, and they don't know where to start?
Yeah, the reality is that, in my opinion, it really depends on what they're trying to do. Do they want to be part of a community? Do they want to collect? Do they want to do something for themselves, for their appreciation of art? Do they have some monetary considerations, in their mind, which is valid? It's not what I have, but it's a valid thing to, to have. What are they trying to accomplish? And that would really determine. But what I always say is that there's no substitute to put in the time. There's no free lunch in life. Take your time. Don't rush things. I swear, I promise, there's not gonna be a work that is gonna that if you don't take your time, understand your taste, understand what you like. Don't be afraid of don't rush things. And my recommendation is to also focus. Once you do this process of understanding what is out there and this learning and educational part of the journey, don't spray. If you have, whatever budget you have, everybody has their own budget or considerations and circumstances in life. Don't divide that into 100 and just see, because everything is, try to be part of the growth together with the artist, in my opinion, that you select. And you can do so not only by acquisition, by reaching out to other collectors, by being part of their community, by engaging with them in different ways, or by facilitating some either exhibitions or some other things that you, if you can, or if you're able to do so. I think these are all, what I would say. Focus.
Yes.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
of the words of the day, focus. I like it.
Yes.
I like it. So getting back to something about the collection, again, 2,000 works, it's an awful lot of art, and an awful lot of time spent deep thinking about it. And something you talked about was the intersection of digital and physical, and how much time you spend thinking about exhibiting, either in home or certain things I'm sure we'll get to on the road, maybe in some top tier museums. How do you think displays will evolve when it comes to digital art? I mean, someone, again, who has so much experience wanting the finest displays, how do you foresee that evolving? How do you foresee that changing the digital landscape?
Honestly, it's if I want to be fully honest, and we're shooting ourselves in the foot here with my answer, but I think it's one of the fundamental biggest problems that we have in the space now, and I think it has a difficult solution. The reality is that I think how you show art, the context of how you show art, is incredibly important in the impact, and again, on how you engage with that art. And the physical ways of showing this have an issue, particularly when it's moving art, when it's art that is not static. In that the aspect ratio, it's incredibly important to be the same as the monitor that you have, and usually the monitors that are the most available, the highest quality, and the easiest to do with is with 16:9 aspect ratio. I know that autonomy, Sean Moss throughout autonomy is working on fantastic advances on how you share these with different monitors that you might have around your home or around your exhibition spaces. I would encourage a lot of the artists to, when they're thinking about creating digitally, to also, not always, it doesn't have to be always, but in many times, there's a wonderful addition to have a connection with a physical. So, okay, this has been created digitally, but here's the print that is literally associated, the official original print that is associated to this work, and this is how it should be shown. Again, whether it's drawn in a canvas and personally with a brush, or where it is done with digital tools, the output, the process and the output is the same, which is art. And we're more than fine to live through it like this. Yeah.
Interesting. So, okay, let me ask this: what is let's say the next 5 years? Okay, for you personally in collection display and coming from the artist's perspective as well. What's on your wish list? What's the number one thing on your wish list that's realistic in the next 5 years?
I honestly think that we need to, the single biggest thing that has the most impact, more than anything of our activities, is when we are hosting people and we're showing them digital art properly exhibited. So one of the things that I would like to see a lot more is, I'm not saying less Twitter, but also not only Twitter, put the effort, show the work, exhibit your work, both at your home, both in your office, both in work to make exhibitions. Put the artists that you support out there in thoughtful ways, in ways that elevate their work, that go with their work. If you do it poorly, it goes against it. So spend the effort, be thoughtful, and if you need to, slightly hack a couple things or get some hardware to make some things work, do that effort. I really think you're going to be very, very surprised by the amount of conversation and the amount of engagement that you're gonna get from things like this. And I think everything's valid. Not everything has to be a screen. You could have as well, some static forms of art, and I think it's just as valid and just as engaging. Yeah.
You mentioned the artist having a hand in establishing what the preferred physical display is, right? Creating that thing from the jump, ideally maybe putting that in the collector's hands, having that available. One recent interesting innovation coming from Transient and the Doppelganger contract, a specific artist in the space, Ryan Koopmans, I quite liked his approach to it. I think there's a lot of valid approaches to the Doppelganger contract, which again is a token that for everyone, token that contains many tokens. So you can select among several artist works, and the artist can theoretically add to those works over time, all contained in the same token. Now, Ryan Koopmans' philosophy on that is he wants to use the Doppelganger contract to offer all display sizes, or many of the popular display sizes. We've all seen the dreaded black bars, sometimes in auction houses, sometimes in places that you would least expect this kind of a thing to happen. He's solving for that within a Doppelganger contract. I think it's a fascinating use of the technology.
I was unaware of this example that you're giving, and I love this. I'm a big fan of, again, artists really being thoughtful about, it's not only about making a sale and not only about, being on Twitter and getting a few likes. It's about, setting the standard of how you want like your work to be properly shown. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story, but I've been in deep conversations for a long time with Andres Reisinger in order to get exactly what we wanted in the codec, exactly how we wanted, so that the lightning and the screen had some the monitor had some considerations that we really need. The colors were not really, so he helped me to again do something around it so that it ended up working, and the small details make all the difference. To me, it is a pity, something that we cannot allow as an industry. We cannot have auction houses, galleries, fairs, and nothing where this is shown publicly. And particularly with high quality art, where no, we cannot have the black, the letterboxed black lines. We cannot have the loading signs after the video ends the loop. Like all of these things, I think, are extraordinarily important if we want to reach out and bridge to the more what I call traditional folks in the world. Yeah,
it's encouraging to see in some cases how far we are coming from just a few short years ago. I remember one of my favorite stories, well, favorite, least favorite, either way. It's all fun now. It's all in good fun because they have improved quite a lot. But I remember the very first inclusion of NFTs in Christie's, which was the Trespassing 2 release, I believe. And there were some artists that we all know in that release. It was, I think, Victor Mascara and Mad Dog Jones and Fuckrender and Micah Johnson and Olive Allen. I believe that was the entirety of the room. And I remember walking into there at the opening of this, and it was sort of tucked away in a wing. And I walked into the wing room, and there were signs on the floor, 2 artworks being shown at once, 1 artwork excluded, 1 artwork turned on its side, and then the music from 1 artwork playing in the room's entirety. And my mind was blown at that time. And again, to their credit, they've greatly improved over the course of years. But at that moment, me walking into Christie's, I don't have a long-standing background with that auction house. I just assumed, hey, this will be spotless. This will be an amazing visual experience. And it couldn't have been more the opposite.
And again, we are improving, and they are putting the effort now to do things better. But I think that we really, as an industry, we need to teach ourselves. We need to put a much bigger emphasis on this. Things cannot be so, like, if somebody offers an exhibition space, like, this needs to be a condition in order for both artists or collectors to show their work. It's either I have the right thing, the right way of showing it properly, or in my opinion, it's better to not show, because I'm sure that even you and me, where we're biased, where we're pushing for this, forward. This leaves an impact that is honestly is the same if you go to somebody's home or you go to a gallery and you go to a museum and the frames are not properly put together, or it's hanged in strange ways, or crooked, or I mean, this is not serious. This is not this is not convincing, this is not engaging. And I think that we need to do a much bigger effort at trying, at least trying to really be more diligent at this. Yeah.
Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Exquisite display. And when you were talking earlier, I'll mention quickly, when you were talking about the qualities it takes to succeed the digital domain, and Sophia having quite a few of those, another name that came to my mind when you got into the discussion around positive personality, a person that you want to be around, a person that's encouraging, Rafik Anadol comes to mind. Rafik Anadol, to me, is one of the most pleasant and engaging people to be around. I haven't had the pleasure to interact with him much in person, but in the digital sphere, plenty of times. And his voice, it puts you in a different place, right? It's in the top tier of expressive forms and expressive people. And let's go to that. So you had a very, very special, you played a significant role in a very, very special moment in Rafik's career recently, but please walk us through it with your words.
Yeah, so again, I more than echo everything that you just mentioned about Rafik. I think that Rafik has all of the ingredients that I mentioned before and even more. He's a genius as well. He's, again, when you're around Rafik, it's just positiveness, just flows and it's contagious. And this is, again, one of the main reasons why I think he's also, this successful and this engaging, with the audience. My journey with Rafik, comes from the early times. I was actually, let's say, the first collector that, let's call it, found. I didn't find Rafik by any means, but that found Rafik on this tokenized digital world. So his first release in Nifty Gateway, I'm the only one, I believe, that has the full set of the first release. And I realized, through my activities then, that this individual was special. I had yet to meet him. I had the chance of, again, through my, as I discussed before, I like to get to know the artists that I have an interest in, that show something good. And then I got to know Rafik, and everything since the beginning really was special, was different, let's say, with Rafik. So it was very, very organic. No, I was lucky that, again, we were building a beautiful relationship as a creator, as an artist, and as a collector. And, the opportunity also then arose to do, the exhibition that we did in Miami Art Week in 2021. And we started working on that, which was, I think, a beautiful moment. And for me, and I think also for Rafik, the first time that digital art was shown like this globally, I would say, and for Rafik, in such an important setting, in such a grandiose and scale place as well, and with the full, the whole art world, viewing at it. So that was a beautiful moment, and again, I kept on supporting Rafik and trying to be alongside and trying to add to his career how I could through different ways over time. As you know, Rafik released an exhibition, around MoMA through Feral File, also in 2021. I participated, I supported, I acquired, I acquired one of the works, and I co-acquired another one of the works from that release, as well as a few full sets from the editions, and it has been a wonderful journey, because I think that Rafik, again, as you said, has all of these ingredients. And let me give you some numbers. Over 2.5 million people have visited the exhibition in person in New York. It has been extended for 5 times. It has factually been, I think, the most successful exhibition in the history of MoMA. It has brought completely new audiences, and interestingly, not only more audiences, but audiences from different backgrounds, from different ages, a super diverse audience that were, again, experiencing this together. I had the pleasure, the opportunity, the honor of being able to attend an intimate toast with everybody, all of the staff members from MoMA, from all the curators, all the way to everybody that participated in any direct or indirect way in this exhibition. The impact that this has had on this group and on everybody else that has been around this is extraordinary. And I think that the validation that this does for digital art globally cannot be understated. I do think that this has, and in my humble opinion, become, and Refic's MoMA donation and Refic's overall, leadership in the space has become the single most important catalyst for the normalization, the validation, the sophistication, the maturation of the space. And I think it's opening up the gates. I cannot share, unfortunately, some of the information. All I can tell you is I promise all of the other institutions are coming. They're here. They have seen the signal. They are realizing, and they're well on their way to open up. So again, for me, the most beautiful about this is that this is very inspirational moment for, I think, all of the digital artists in the space, that I think now there's a real path. There's a real way to make this a part of art. So just a beautiful journey. I do not want to stop talking about Refic without also mentioning all of the other amazing contributors, because it hasn't been done alone. This hasn't been through Ryan and my donation alone, nor through also Refic, nor through also the people at Verify. It has been, or nor through the MoMA. It has been a combined approach with dozens of people involved in making this happen, and a whole community and industry behind of support, and just the most beautiful moment in my opinion for the space, not for me personally, but for the space, for sure. Yeah.
Are you able to share any milestones of how a permanent acquisition happens? How that even becomes a talking point and then ends up getting over the finish line to become such a monumental moment for the space?
Yes. So I don't know which specifics you would like to discuss, but I think usually happen organically. So it's not like you go to the MoMA and you say, here, I'm going to donate this work, keep it for the permanent collection. It is more, again, and this case was I would say, probably the most different ever to anything that they have done yet. It was the first tokenized work. It had some infrastructure and technology considerations along the way. It had, I was going to say political, but political is not this. But it had a breaking of a barrier type, push that I think had also had to come from different locations. And again, I think this was a combined effort. Mostly, I think that Casey Rias played an incredible role in this. Casey Rias, not only an incredible creator, but the professor, and Refik Sanadol's mentor, and just an incredible individual. But he played a very important role. I know that Sean Moss as well played a big role, and I know the curator Michelle Kuo and Stuart Comer played a big role in, again, putting all of the ingredients around it to make this happen. At first, this started as an exhibition for the MoMA, without going to a permanent collection, and over time it grew into physically, factually entering the collection. Yeah.
It seems like a very meritocratic outcome, right? Starting as an exhibition, having, I think you referenced 2.5 million people trafficking the exhibition, being there, observing it. I'm sure that a museum over time has to recognize the enormity of those numbers that are flocking in.
Yeah, but I really take my hats off, for MoMA, because they were really pioneering. They have really spent a lot of time and thought understanding this graphics practice, understanding how to also how this works in the context of what they're doing. And honestly, they took a huge leap, a humongous leap, that I think shows why MoMA is and will continue to be and continues to be at the forefront of contemporary art. They are. I cannot be more impressed with the process from them, how they're thinking about so many different sides that in my mind I could have never even expected at first. But this group is thinking not for this exhibition now, or not for this acquisition donation at the moment. They're thinking how is this going to play also in 500 years, and how does this all make sense all together. And it is quite impressive, the level of detail, sophistication, and focus that they have placed throughout this process. Incredible. Yeah.
To me, that's very encouraging context. I appreciate you adding it, and also the little hat tip. I know you can't say anymore, but possibly, the first, but maybe not the last to come in and interact with the space.
And again, not only with MoMA, like this is happening across the board, and across all the different. I don't like to put this in levels, but let's say from all types of institutions, from the globally recognized institutions to some of the more locally ones. The conversation, the engagement, the activity is there, and for the first time, in my opinion, it's properly there. If I'm saying sense, they're again thinking thinking bigger, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to remember this. I'm bookmarking this dialogue. I hope some others do the same when we see some of these things come to pass in the future.
Yes, and I know that people are not seeing this, but I want to utilize this opportunity as well to show you personally. Maybe you can help me. You're more eloquent than I am, a lot more eloquent than I am, of what I mean with the this first ever tokenized machine hallucination. And this is actually the 6 chapters from that, because it's a long form video and it has like 6 chapters. And this was Refik since the beginning, already thinking like, like this. This was, I didn't do this. It was Refik that sent this when I acquired this work back in the day. This again, the first machine hallucinations ever tokenized by Refik. It's a metal museum quality print. We have, and it's probably a conversation that we're going to have today as well at some point, but we have our friend, Pac here, and again, properly exhibited, I think in a museum quality standard. And you're going to look at this as well. And I'm very sorry, I know this is a podcast for the rest of the people, but look how we're showing the Refik and Adol, the MoMA Generative Study 1, which is the other work from the MoMA release that we still have in the collection. But this is, even though it is on a monitor, it is on a screen because it is a moving work and it needs to be shown like that. The context of how it's shown is very, very different. That is not a television. That is actually how you should be, showing digital art. And we're doing so with the hardware so that it's museum standard. We use bright signs, players behind for digital signets, and it's ultra high definition. These are multiple gigabyte work that is being shown with extreme high quality in the right aspect, and just everything very thoughtfully. And this a little surprise for when we do a home collection visit.
Now that is the mind-blowing one. I don't know if you saw me post. This is Relative People and a particular display that was part of the grand opening. But I posted, I said, please, a not mass distributed, but a more widely distributed version of that digital sculpture, I think would be phenomenal. So that's the one that breaks my brain.
Yeah. So again, and it's beautiful to see the impact that work is having on anybody that visits the home. We had a beautiful event last week here with the Bass Museum here in Miami, which is a very important museum here in Miami, together with Sotheby's. And we had another event as well with another group following that week, and everybody directly. Again, when you're presenting things, when you're executing properly, when you're showing them physically in the way that they're intended to be, that is, people couldn't see it there, but that is a proper sculpture executed to perfection to the same standards that that the top artists in the more analog world, come through, and the narrative, the conversation, the engagement that you get out of it is just extraordinary. I am very, very, very grateful that Mike, that Bipo is. And other artists are being, again, very thoughtful about this component of their careers. Yeah.
I want to give a few compliments and bring the listeners into the visual, so to speak. Number one, the Refik Anadol wall, I'll call it, of the 6 metal prints that are custom, that were intentional by him. I'm a big fan of diptychs and triptychs, and I don't even know what to call 6 of them together, but I would say that the wall was fantastic. It's just one of those signature pieces. It has scale, it has size to it. I don't know if you know the exact dimensions of it, but it basically takes up an entire wall.
Yes, a big wall, a big
wall. And then the other thing that I'll say, as you walk through the room and showcase some of the moving works, the architectural expertise in that household is apparent. It is apparent. It's very apparent that the artworks are integrating with the furniture and the ambiance and the intended feel of the room, and that's something that I think goes a level above.
Well, thank you very much for that. That's something that I cannot take any credit. That's my wife, who's the architect and the designer. But thank you very much for the kind words. And yeah, we really do try to put a big effort into being thoughtful about which works go where and how they converse with each other and just everything around that. So thank you for pointing that out. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
We talked a lot about Rafiq. There are two other artists displayed in that room. You did begin talking about people a bit, and then the other one would be Pac. And I think we should go down both of those roads a little bit further.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, let's start. Since you already started talking about people a bit, there was another monumental event, Human One, coming to a museum environment. How about that? Can you talk through that? It seemed like you had a role to play in that special moment. I saw some of the video footage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people might not know this, but I am involved in Human One. I am let's say a collector of Human One and involved in the process. And again, I think that what people is doing is extraordinarily smart. It is exactly what the space needs, which is again breaking those barriers through institutions, through showing their work in a physical way, and through innovating, utilizing their digital creativity. But actually showing, executing something properly that is going to be again thoughtful, that takes their vision and that incorporates into the practice, into what they know. So I think they have all the ingredients as well to do something very special. And I think that Mike has even some other ingredients that make him very unique. He's the only person, honestly, in the world that can comment on society and on the most powerful individuals and groups around the world in a very visual, strong way, and do so again with that, with the creativity, with the narrative, and with everything around that is part of the culture, that becomes direct part of the culture. And I think that is very, very powerful. I also think that he has an incredible personality and many other things that are really going to help him propel his career forward. And I think that he's very, very thoughtful and very disciplined. And when you see the execution of these digital sculptures in person, you cannot believe it. I mean, these things are proper, huge innovations. They're extraordinarily engaging. In particular, not only in Crystal Bridges, but in Human One, Castello de Rivoli. And I cannot mention more, but beautiful things might be coming with this, with Human One moving forward. The amount, again, people directly engage with it. I was able to go to Christie's to see it for the first time before it was sold. And we had in there there was amazing art properly exhibited in Christie's, traditional analog art, some works that are extraordinarily important. And there was a line to see the Mike's work. It was super innovative. It was something fresh, something new, something of the now, something for all generations, something that piques the interest of the more traditional folks, but something that also gets at all the new folks very excited. I think that these kinetic sculptures are Beeple's kinetic sculptures are honestly, and all the sculptures, all the Beeple physicals are going to not only age extraordinarily well, but are the most relevant, like some of the most relevant works released through this medium. And I think that the decisions that he's making towards going through to institutions, towards the art world, I think are extraordinarily smart, and I applaud them. Yeah.
There's a quality of Human One that I want to touch on. We've seen the explosion recently of generative art, and I think generative art seems like it's absolutely trending in a very, very positive direction, and will have many moments on behalf of or driven by many artists out there. I want to go back to Human One though and touch on the human quality of Human One, right? Where he has the ability, obviously, to program different things in, but really, to me at least, my takeaway from rolling that out is that Beeple himself can come back every single year, can update the artwork in the way that he wants to as time moves. It's not solely bound by code, it's the human behind it.
This is beautiful. This is something that people have been doing since inception. Even if you remember Crossroads was a dynamic work that changed given the output of the election. which I think, again, it was a very important work that perhaps we need to revisit as well at some point as an industry. But I think that that was very important. But I think this is fascinating. This is a journey. It's a human one journey that is going to continue not only through his life, but people, again, this is the, like, this is what makes also, like, people is already thinking about what's going to happen when he's not here. He's, I don't know what his exact age he is, but he's a young individual that has a full career ahead of him, artistic career, and he's already thinking about this, how to make this dynamic, how to make this react to things that might happen in the future, or in general, how to bring this together. I find this fascinating. I think it gives it a beautiful journey. I think it makes it more engaging. I think it makes it more adaptable. I think it makes it all of these things, and it makes it more inclusive as well. It can allow you to also do, participatory things through the works, which, as you know, also happen. Some of these works either have puzzles or have some things that you can unlock, and has, let's say, some derivative work from the work. Amazing solution. This is perfect. It's the smartest thing, in the world. I am a big fan. Yeah.
I have to revisit the anecdote, use that as a springboard. The month is October of the year 2020. Beeple enters the space with 100 edition Politics is Bullshit, which I think is an edition that maybe stands atop editions across the space. I mean, one of certainly the most infamous editions that exists as of today. Mm-hmm. But also, there were 2 one-of-one artworks associated with that release. And the one you referred to, of course, is Crossroads. How did you have the foresight, especially at that moment in time, to want to invest at that level in what was starting to, it hadn't exploded yet. The industry was starting to rise just a little bit. That was a very, very significant collection at the time.
Yes. So again, I think Mike was extraordinarily smart. So before his entrance into the space, he spoke with a select few individuals that were active, in different ways, and we happened to engage and have a couple, or more than a couple, some conversations before his first release, where we overall discussed, a little bit of everything, how we saw, what I thought, and etc., etc. But through these conversations, I realized all of these virtues about Mike that I just told you around. That this person is a genius. They have the discipline. I mean, this guy has been doing an every day for 15 years straight, even the day that his kids are born. Like that. Nobody's more disciplined than this person. Even knowing as we know Mike. Again, he had a very powerful personality that was contagious in every way. He was the best at what he did. He was highly well revered by everybody else in the space. He had professional experience. He had all of the things. And honestly, I thought that the art was and his narrative and his message was very powerful. I saw all of the ingredients and signaling of a leader, and I think that it was perfect. It was beautiful that such an individual was coming into the space. So for me, the decision was very, very simple to acquire those 2 first works. Not very simple because at the time, and even now and everything, was a large amount of money that was really itching at the time. But for me, it was very, very clear. Very, very clear that Beeple was going to, to set the stage and to be a humongous leader in the space. Yeah.
And one of those 2 works, again, you collected both one-of-ones. One was Crossroads, and Crossroads went on to make another major headline as the space hit its peak bull run in 2021.
Yeah, that is correct. 4 months, a little bit under 4 months after this first release. And it was subsequent to the other release that people did, in between. I was approached in this case by Nifty Gateway, that they had a buyer, an interested buyer for the work. And at the time, I wasn't. It wasn't in my mind. I wasn't trying to. Again, a lot of people don't know this, but my collection is not driven by monetary. It's not driven by the monetary terms. Well, I would lie, and everybody would lie if they think that losing value along the way is something that I want to do. No, I don't want to do that. But it's really not driven through that. It's more of a personal hobby, of a passion, of a legacy than anything else. But with this, they reached out and they were like, well, we want to we want to, we're seriously, there's somebody that's seriously interested in making an acquisition for this work. And at that time, Beeple was already starting to go up, getting a lot of attention. There was another release where many of the one-of-ones went for very significant money, where I don't know if you remember, but Tim Kang, illustrator, famously acquired the complete collection for those $777,000, I think, at the time. So things were gearing up, but, when this happened, there hadn't yet been not even $1 million art sale of digital art sale yet, let alone a multi-million-dollar artwork. And I gave I set a price, and the only reason this happened was in order to set the primaries were going well, but in order for an artist to really be established, it needs to be also have some secondary sales at certain levels. To support, to validate that, and I thought it was a great moment. Also, it was good money, I put a price. We negotiated minimally, and the acquisition happened, and it was great. I think it was a major procedure, actually, the catalyst also to the Christie's sale going to where it went. The estimates for the Christie sales weren't even a tenth of what it ended up before this sale. Yeah,
that was a sequence of really incredible moments. And one fun fact, I don't know if you know this, but the first time that I decided to use my own voice publicly after coming to my own conclusions about NFTs, developing my own conviction about NFTs, the first time I actually said, I have something to say, let me say it, I live covered the entirety of the December 2021 3-day Beeple stretch. So every single result, I was trying to bid on the first one, and of course that quickly got away from me. But every single sale, I was live interacting and trying to share out what was happening. And I think even those of us who believed it would be quite special, maybe even exceeded that outcome a bit.
Yeah. Again, I think it was a beautiful moment. It also has, its consequences, some of the consequences now, but yeah. I think we remember them with good memories. Yeah.
So let's switch over. Let's switch over to the other artist in the wall in the other room. You released a very poignant, I thought, long form, very, very thoughtful. And I hope the space takes notes, because this, to me, is it's positive debate, it's positive discussion. An artist who's picked up a bit of polarization is Pac, right? Or Pac. Yes. That's the pronunciation. I mentioned this to you off recording too. The pronunciation has been stuck in my mind. I have one side of my brain that says Pac, and the other side of my brain that says Pac. And just please forgive me for waffling back and forth between those two.
Yeah, I mean, you hear my accent. English is actually my first language, and you hear my accent. So I'm not going to be anybody that's going to be pointing out anything. I don't even know how to say my own name. Yeah.
So that thread that you wrote, very, very thoughtful. You invited a lot of, I thought, very constructive debate. And yet you see the polarization there. This is an artist who has, just to set the stage, been around for a number of years, pioneered the first open edition. So many technical innovations, many technical innovations, a real marriage of art and blockchain artistry, I would say. But please, in your own words, walk us forward and maybe what prompted that post that you put out.
Okay, so many things to discuss here. First of all, let me actually start by saying something that I've been pretty open about this, which I think, first of all, that everybody's opinions and arguments are valid, whether they are right or not. I think they're valid. In the same way, like in the space, we always tend to only to have creatives at this, like, the top of the altar, as if absolute gods, where everything they do is always well done, and then the collectors, no matter anything, nobody can say anything. I think that's a mistake. I think that as an industry, we need to get a little bit better at saying, yes, creatives should be able to do as they wish. But also collectors can then have their own choices, have their own decisions, make their own conclusions, support or comment pro or against something in the same way, and always being respectful along the way and in the constructive way, in my view. But I think it's fair. Now I will continue by saying, I think Pac is two things. I think Pac is undoubtedly in my view, in my personal view, and I respect others, but undoubtedly the single most the single most sophisticated, powerful, knowledgeable of the tools, the single most, let's say, important or advanced digital creative in the world. I have seen many things from PAC in digital creativity and innovation that nobody else will be able to do for decades or for years in many cases. He's consistently, constantly new and always extraordinarily powerful, extraordinarily accomplished on the digital front, and as well has made some of the biggest mistake, if not the biggest mistake of any creators in the space. So both things are valid. So I'm not trying to defend what is some other things. I will say, though, that PAC is, in my opinion, the most important digital creative of this movement, and their contributions are not to be dismissed. Now, I don't know what you want to focus on, whether you want to focus a little bit on the story of what I've, my story with PAC. How did I get to this conclusion? And what do I think is the big elephant in the room now, and potentially even discuss some potential solutions that I may see, or outcomes, or in general, whether we want to focus more on the current state and the current just general thought around PAC.
I think we make 4 stops along this journey. Okay. Stop number 1, a bit of context about your introduction, right? A bit of how you formed your own conviction and your own sort of thesis around this, and why you say, okay, that's stop number 1. Number 2, segueing into what again doesn't get enough attention, in my opinion, the significant contributions, maybe the top couple on your mind, just really making them very apparent and clear. Then the elephant in the room, maybe you think what some of one of or a couple missteps have been. And then final stop number 4, the constructive path forward. I think that's our 1, 2, 3, 4. Are you up for it?
I'm up for it. Let's do it. So again, a little bit of PAC for me was the first creative in this domain that really, where I really started having a proper. I was hooked. I was obsessed. I was intrigued. I'm a very curious person. And at first it was, I saw their aesthetics, and I connected to them, but then I connected with PAC. I reached out, we started speaking, and I started realizing, and I started learning, and I started going down the PAC rabbit hole. Oh my dear God, I recommend everybody, even if you're a little bit upset about the current situation, my strong recommendation: go down the PAC rabbit hole. You're going to be amazed about about what you find. Everything is part of a bigger mechanic. Everything is part of a highly complex system, and everything, it is more sophisticated than what you think. So you might be seeing you're seeing an image. There's so many extra layers to that image. There's so many more things that are always connected. When people do studies and looking back in time, I think they're going to be blown away. But throughout that period, it was in the early times of Super Rare. I spoke more with PAC than with my wife during a very long time. I was constantly speaking with PAC, not only about their work but about everything in the space, and just always brainstorming about different ideas in general, different creations, different methods, and honestly, I was having a blast. Because on the one hand, I think PAC is again extraordinarily powerful. It was for me, even an intellectual challenge. We discussed even some philosophical things around digital art, around it was extraordinary. This is a group or individual or whatever it is that is really, again, at a very high levels of innovation. From that, again, I started realizing the profoundness of his creations, and I started collecting as much as I could, for a very long time, because I thought that some of his contributions were amazing. The Pixel series, the first Red, that was a huge moment at the time, a humongous. It changed everything. It was the first work that really fully engaged everybody on crypto Twitter in different ways. His Click-to series, the first time that in Super Rare somebody was really playing with the with the formatting of some of the works and with the interaction of some of the works. Even before it was formally available through Superware, he was already going around and again getting the solutions that he wanted with the tools and with the limitations that were around. I said he, they. And then overall, I just thought that all of the releases that we were putting together were incredibly thoughtful, interesting, bringing something new, innovative, with an aesthetic that I felt comfortable. And again, my journey was just all beautiful along the way. Now, I have been more supportive. Let's go now into what was the second part of the leg?
The second was to make sure that the top 1, 2, 3 things, however many you want, historical contributions, make sure they're firm in people's minds, because I don't think that gets enough attention.
Yeah, again, I think that Pac, first of all, it's probably Pac is the person that has collaborated with the most artists in the space. He has a lot of collaborations. He's incredibly always, assisting, in whatever they can with anything, whether it's platform-wise, where it's a creative, where it's a collector that needs something, always willing to be of service for the rest without charging and just, again, lifting everybody, along the way. I think that Pac has direct contributions, like, again, in Superware, just going around the first artists that really went around, the Click-to series, the first Pixel, so bringing conceptual art and this conversation, conceptual digital art and this conversation to a place where it hadn't been before. I think that the fungible, open editions was a concept that was landed by Pac through brainstorming a lot with me after trying to find a solution for a solution around X, the release X. I think that the fungible, I think that the release, the title was an incredible commentary and conceptual and an incredible release that is going to be remembered and aged so much better. I think that what it is. I think that the fungible was another idea, another mechanic, another type of engagement that was extraordinarily, thoughtful. That was something new. I think that the smart contract innovations, whether they had a hiccup along the way, which is not the best. And by the way, Pac, it's my understanding that Pac made sure that everybody returned, the problems with the gas and everything, and everybody returned, what they spent. But the smart contract innovation through Merge. And just the idea of coming up with that is incredible. Like it's far above and beyond, I think, any other innovations that we've seen from any other direct creative in the space. And then Lost Poets. So again, we're talking now about the issues with them, but about the project. Like Lost Poets has generated dozens and dozens of thousands of AI images that actually look factually like humans. So none of them are bad results in a way, well before many of these public AI systems were invented. So this is proprietary AI generated, for me, undoubtedly, like, not a question asked whatsoever, the most sophisticated by multiple levels of, if you want to call it a PFP collection, if you're going to define it like that, or if you want to define it something else. But it is above and beyond any other project that has this type of supply or any type of large supply in terms of sophistication of the output. And let's think that this keeps on evolving, that we're now in Act 2 or in version 2 or evolution 2, which the poets have incredibly changed their aspect. And now we're moving to the season, to the third one that is underway. And again, like, I look at the other projects that have also gone down in price significantly and in market cap and all of these things, and I see what they provide, and I see what this project provides, and I'm like, look, like, I understand that some things could be fixed and we can talk about these things, but come on, like, if you're gonna be like that with Pac, like, you need to be the same across the board, because many of the issues here are more given the market and individual decisions than, again, the amazingness of some of the projects that have been released. Feel free to disagree with that. Again, I think other points of view are very valid, and I might be a little bit biased just because I've been so impressed and so close with so many of Pac's creations.
I I would do nothing but double down. I see a very glowing side to this journey. I was also someone who absolutely has collected, absolutely has been an advocate at times. Now I would call myself a, how would I frame it? I would say I'm neutral-ish today, but it's part of what we're going to get to, where I am a little bit, look one way and things seem quite rosy and innovative, and generational talent and all the things that you said. And then you turn the other way. Let's get to that so we can balance the discussion out, and then we can try to bring it all together.
Before that, just very, very quickly, there's another work that I think is extraordinarily, it's one of my favorite works in my collection. It's called Fade. And this is a work that, again, it had a peculiar release. It was through Sotheby's at the time, different, outside of his main releases and his own. Anyways, this work is infinitely generative. It is an SVG file that is constantly being generated in a full spectrum, a vector files of color that actually the shape changes over time and that is engaging. I can interact with the blockchain and will make changes to the work. This is a work that still hasn't been done. Nobody else has actually done something like that, proprietary like this, to this sophistication. And many of even the generative artists still don't even. So again, he was generative even before generative art came through the space in a way that is still more sophisticated than the large majority of generative artists that we've seen today. So again, it is completely okay to have some issues with some of the decisions that have been made around PAC. I would not discount the profoundness of their creations. Yeah.
And I think it's very important for you to take us through all of those points, because there are many. And that is completely valid, right? That side of it is completely valid. So let's go to the other side. I want to hear, I have two, right? I have two main gripes or maybe issues, right? But I'll save mine. I don't want to bias the discussion. What would you frame as the problematic maybe decisions along the way?
I would say, and this is a conversation that I've had, a little bit directly, rather honestly, as well with PAC. But I think they certainly oversupplied. And they, in my opinion, it's not that they overpromised, like they are too sophisticated, in my opinion, to allow how big this got, knowing where it might have. So it is not so much for me that they overpromise, because I still think that some of these projects, in particular poets, needs a little bit more closure and a little bit more follow-up, and again, being there. But I wish that PAC had released less projects and focused more on properly finalizing the fungible, merge, and lost poets. I would also think, if you want me to be extra critical, this is something that I think most of the people in the ecosystem have completely missed. PAC is always trying to innovate. PAC, every time, they're not gonna release something if it's not innovative, if it's not something new, if it's not something that is adding, if it's not something that has been seen before. Yet I think that they made a a strategic mistake, and this is something that again, I want to be mindful. I hope that PAC, I'm sure that they're gonna hear this, and please take it in a positive way. But and I've told you this before. They should innovate in what they're the best at, which is being a digital creative. They have less competitive advantage in innovating in financial innovations. So I think that one of the main problems, the main issues that prompted this fall with PAC was them trying to go away from all the amazing innovations that they're doing on digital creations and trying to bring Ash in the system that it has as a new form, as a new incentive system. That again, it was a beautiful and great experiment that could have some things, whatever it is. But I think that was a mistake, a strategic mistake. It's like, you're the best in the world at what you do. Do that, do it properly, and you do not need to also be the best in the world at this, in my opinion.
I feel we're very much aligned, right? The two problematic areas to me, again, as someone who's been around Pack for several years, collected, been engaged, been in a lot of these different ecosystems. I thought that the promise of Ash was very easy to get behind. I thought conceptually the token ecosystem was strong. But I think as we've seen with a lot of different examples, even Beeple's B20 token for a minute there when that was in existence, you can see that tokens have a way of spinning speculation out of control. And who knows whether that will always be the case, but it certainly has been the case for the past several years. And so the Ash token hits, and I think it automatically levels up the financial interest in and speculation in the Pack overall ecosystem. The problem specifically that I had with that is there was some advice that started to come in that the token may have a flaw, that it needed to be taken, a serious look needed to be taken, a serious look needed to be given to the token structure, and it was at risk of falling apart. And I thought that was a little bit, stiff-armed away. Just no, this is fine. This is, and then the token starts to fall apart. The problem I had with it, everyone makes mistakes. Token ecosystems can fall apart. All that's fine. It was Pack. And probably what you're saying, they're so brilliant on multiple levels. I've termed them the most brilliant generational marketer the space has ever seen. And that's in addition, by the way, to the validity of the art. It's in addition to it. So it's just all of that stacked on top of one another can take things to an absolute fever pitch. So as one of the most brilliant generational marketers, marketing a token for a minute there, the Ash was very much to the forefront. When the token ultimately fell apart, maybe it was frustration, but a lot of the social commentary coming from the account was, this has always just been about the art. And I found just in that moment it to be a little tasteless. So that's problem number one for me.
May I comment on that?
Of course, yeah.
I think that is extraordinarily valid, and yeah, it's extraordinarily valid. There's no defending. So this was a thoughtful experiment. It was a good experiment. But again, the one small counter argument that I would say around this is that, at least to my knowledge, all right, to my knowledge, and I don't know whether the plan was going to be that or not, but Pack wasn't enriching themselves through the Ash. They didn't pre-mint for themselves. It is true that there were then some other things that, but this wasn't this was, and through my conversations with Pack coming up through this, I can promise you, this was never, at least in the conversations around, when this was potentially being discussed, it was them really trying to bring up with their own, again, incentive solutions around their ecosystem, their creative ecosystem, as an added to the ecosystem. So I think, again, it was tasteless, and one of the big things that I think we can all tell Pack is, Pack, you cannot take away the people that are not on your side outside of the conversation. So they are there, and their concerns or their opinions are valid. It doesn't, and then secondly, you need to be showing up. You need to be there. You need to be saying, hey, like other creatives, I think that it's time to maybe reconsider the path that this project might be taking. We might put a little pause along the way to together come with the right strategy or solution, but a little bit of information, and particularly when you have so much of an influence. I feel, even though this is, again, all justified or valid, and they did indeed take significant capital in the space and all of these things, I find it to be slightly unfair, if that makes any sense, unfair when you really step outside and look at both all the contributions and in general, how everything else. Other artists have failed much harder in many other projects at different scales, obviously, or have done things that, in my opinion, are directly more problematic in the action that they actually take, not an experiment that doesn't necessarily go as well as intended. And not only people don't say anything, but people applaud it. That will be my only comment. Yeah.
And I think it's a good one. I think it's a good one, and I think the response to that is, what is it? Heavy lies the crown, or when you do get to that type of a stratosphere and that type of a perch, and unfortunately, it can be judged on the amount of money that's being taken in, and when that is the case, I think sometimes the backlash or criticism can take can go to the next level. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yes.
And then the last point, the second point I think we're aligned on it. You mentioned oversupply, and I think that would be my second piece. That's my second maybe gripe in the overall discussion. When Lost Poets came out, I remember thinking that was such a brilliant project with so many different components, so forward thinking. You've talked about it a bit, and even the innovations we've seen since its release have been spectacular and ahead of the AI curve that we've seen happen since. But the supply that happened after that actually surprised me. There were the two moments after that. It was the fundraiser, and then it was merge. And all three of those things happening in such rapid succession confused me a bit at the time. And I think ultimately opened up the ecosystem to more criticism when things went wrong. Meaning if there wasn't that type of a supply, and there was the manifold contract issue at the time, the gas refunded, you've already mentioned that. That happened to a lot of people in the space. Those things happened. It was made good, but the ecosystem was financially motivated at the time. And when such a contract error happens and the supply is the foundation is shaking a little bit, all of a sudden it opens the door. An error like that, handled the right way, even still can open the door and invite in a lot of vitriol in the back end.
Yes, I agree with that, and I know I have again candidly told PAC my views on potential things, but I think that PAC has made the same mistake that honestly every single other creative has made in the space as well. If we're going to make the parallels with us to other things as well as all the other tokens, maybe this is not for this conversation, maybe for another conversation, but again. Economics is now a quite defined science. Like some of the laws of economics we should really follow, in my opinion. And it seems to me, and it is normal, that people are highly, all of them, not only creatives but also some collectors and participants and platforms and everybody. They're completely not taking this into account, and circumstantial things can happen that might shift this demand and supply equation a little bit, but over time, it is so important. And the one problem with oversupply is that it is extraordinarily difficult or impossible to ever come back from it. It is the one mistake that has no turning back. And I think that if I really want to, if I not for the public, but if I was openly talking to PAC about what I think conceptually has been your mistake, your big mistake is giving yourself away, giving your creations, your market, your audience away to the audience, and you do that through oversupplying, and once it's in their hands, it's impossible to get it back, or extraordinarily expensive, or even when you do it back, never fully how it is. It's always going to be an unbalanced unbalance. So yeah, I hope I'll continue to have conversations and try to come up with other solutions or different ways, and I will continue to honestly work towards on both sides telling PAC on one side that I do believe that some of these things are fair arguments and valid arguments, whether they might see it like this or not, but valid arguments that should be welcomed into the conversation, and to potentially try to steer in the right direction, because I truly, honestly believe that PAC is and will continue to be one of the most significant and important creators of our time.
I hope people take away two things from this. I hope the first takeaway from a macro level is I think your long form Twitter post is an example. It's exemplary of a behavior I hope more adopt. I think balanced debate, you leading with that all opinions are valid, being willing to see both sides, look at it, and be constructive in walking forward, I really think is the path forward. And there's always, there's time for fun and games, there's time for criticism. people like to be silly sometimes, and people like to be mean sometimes. And all that is fine in everyone's prerogative. I hope that more follow in the footsteps of that long form post you wrote, which again I think is so valuable. And the second thing I'll say, because I mentioned to you, I sit at what I feel is the middle ground, right? It's not a cop out. I'm very willing to engage in the hard discussions. I'm willing to air my gripes. I'm willing to air the positives. But I'm literally in the middle ground where I can see both sides, and I agree with you. I think there's a lot of validity to both sides. But the one thing I'm glad you shared that hasn't gotten enough attention recently is an in-depth look at the contributions and the innovations to balance out some of the quick takes on the negative side. That's very important. I'm really happy we had a chance to do that here today. Because again, at the middle ground, that's just as valid a perspective. And so then people can draw their own conclusions, but at least you have both sides of it.
Yeah, and again, on that last point, without diminishing absolutely anybody else, but we think of other creatives in the space, and I cannot really come up with even other contributors that have contributed even half of in this case. Again, for those that have been here for a long time, and look at, one of the beautiful things, or one of the things that for me, the takeaways that I saw from this is, look at the comments from the other artists that have been here for a long time. The very large majority of them are super pro-pack. That to me, it is a conclusion in itself. For whatever that's worth. That has been at least what I've seen. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Pablo, let's end where we began. And we've had a wide-ranging discussion. We've talked about a lot of different creators and displays and art collections and things I would love to dig into more with you as the years pass. But to come back to it, art. What does it mean to you, and how would you define it?
Again, I would define art the same as before. I think art is anything that is created with the intention to create. This intention comes from the creative, from the artist. I am nobody to define an artwork. It comes from the definition of the let's say the producer, the creative themselves. This is my definition of art. I am not the eminence, but this is my definition of art. What it means to me. It's funny because I don't have a perfect answer for this, but I read something not long ago from a friend, Sean Moss-Pulch. He's the founder of Bitmark, on the Feral File. He's Ria's partner, incredible individual, and he was telling me that he has found over the years that art is another indirect form of knowledge, and that it is the aura and the impact of including culture, and I'll expand it not only from art, but culture in your life has at least to me, has an invisible effect that just makes everything rises everything else around. I don't know how to explain it. It gets me into the word is, I'm sorry that I'm not being very eloquent here, but it's not into a better mood. It gets me into a better state. It allows me to experience, in some ways, nature as well, creative nature, with other individuals as well together. It makes me contemplate. It makes me think. It takes me to these, to this place that sometimes I also feel a little bit comfortable. It challenges some notions as well. It can do so many things. But certainly since I've been including more and more art in my life, everything else seems to also just, mature, sophisticate, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Very well said. But what came to my mind is art has transcendent qualities, just as you were stating that, which I think ended up in a very eloquent place. Who should be on the future of art?
There's so many people that I love. So if we have a few more minutes, I want to comment because this makes me think. I think that what we need right now, and let me be a little bit more direct with the space. First of all, I think that what we need right now is to stop, not to stop, but to really. I think that the ethos in the space at the moment is too still against everything that was here before. It is even I put another tweet this week as well, just asking in general for people, which do you think are the creators that have been doing the most contributions to digital art? And we had two kinds of answers: the early pioneers that started these decades ago before tokenization and blockchain, and then those artists that are really pushing the envelope in today's world. But very few are bridging both. And I think that this is a signal that, again, another conclusion that I took from that tweet. I think that this is also happening in terms of the physical and the digital, in the terms of the inclusiveness. It's kind of like everybody in the space is like, oh, well, that's not how we do things. This is a new. I think that's a big mistake. So my recommendation would be to bring somebody from the more traditional world that is speaking into this world and having some activities, and what do they see themselves around, the friction points? What would they wish to see? I think that view is extraordinarily important, and we're seeing very, very little of that. And I might give you, some people that might be less known in Twitter, but I think can bring very, very important considerations. They're very active quietly, let's say, in the space, and yeah. And overall, I would push this again, not only with people, but with everything. We need to do the effort. We need to be talking to galleries. We need to be talking to institutions. We need to be talking to everybody in the regular, what I call the regular approach, because at the end of the day, let's face it, it's 1,000 of us in here. It's the same of us. We're all self-dealing. And there's, the pace of supply is much, 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 much grander than the pace of the growth of collectors and the pace of the people coming into the space. And just we need to be both prepared and cognizant of this fact. Yeah,
I think it's very well said. Very well said.
So I'll come up with a couple ideas, but I would like to see somebody like Adam Lindemann, for example, could give good perspectives into this world, or I can come up with other names that again might be less known for crypto Twitter, but some highly influential people in the traditional art world that can give some oversights of what they think. And then I'm happy to have another conversation with you against so many other topics to cover. Yeah.
Please. And one of the purposes, I don't know if you're aware, but one of the purposes, because I did NFT origin stories for quite some time. We did 67 interviews with Beeple and Raf and so many wonderful people. The reason why I ended up doing the future of art, which is this show, and you'll be episode 21, which I quite like the number. But why it kicked off was I was interviewing exclusively artists along with Parrot and NFT origin stories, and I wanted to broaden the dialogue. So exactly what you're speaking to, I felt the need to grow, to stretch, and it's not to the detriment of anyone that's being interviewed at all. It's just for diversity of communication. It's to go back and look forward and be in the present moment and talk to not only artists, but esteemed collectors like yourselves, those making a difference in broadening the space out and stretching it and growing it and really driving it into, pun intended, the future of art. And that's the purpose. So I would love those dialogues.
I love that. I think you're super smart doing this. I think it's very, very important, and I love this. I'll come back with again some names, some recommendations, and again on my personally, I keep on learning is my hobby, learning is my passion, and I keep on learning honestly a lot of things from incredible folks in the traditional world that have less idea of this, that are trying, that are coming, that are looking, and that want to participate. And I think that that their perspectives are extraordinarily valid. If we want to really push digital art to where we want to push it. What I would say though is that overall, there's many things that we haven't spoken about today that are a little bit concerning to me at the moment about the current state of the market. In particular, I do have some let's just say ideas in general or comments in general around long form generative works and how they will age or not age or etc. But that's a deep conversation. I forget where I was going with this, but I forgot my friend. But yeah, I've been learning a lot from the traditional folks, and I think that we need to be inclusive and yeah, hearing what they have to say. Yeah,
agreed. Well, onward to those conversations, and to bring it back around to you and to give you your flowers. Again, I've had the honor of interacting with you for several years now, and just seeing the various moves you made, the contributions you've made. even the way that your home is arranged, right? I mean, it's very it's setting a standard and it's setting a bar that I think a lot of people should pay attention to. Where can people find you? Where would you like to direct people to? Maybe your long form posts on X, which I sure hope you do more of. Where else should people take a look?
Fantastic. I'll try to be a little bit more active on X, but honestly, the best way to learn about us is on our website, which is rfc.art. And again, we try to update it, but we'll be very, very active there moving forward. And again, I will say that I do have that I cannot share yet, but I do have some personal major plans that I think might even influence or add to the current landscape in very significant ways, more so than any project that I've done in my life yet. It's going to be a lifelong project that I'll be more than willing to share over time, and that you can probably follow it both through X, through my Instagram, or through the webpage rfc.art. Yeah.
You've given us a lot of you've given us the alpha without giving us the alpha. We've talked about some institutions and some major life events that's grander than anything else you've ever done.
Yeah, so I can just say that again, things are flowing in the right direction. Particularly, good. I think that again, since even from before, but since Refik, going to the permanent collection of the MoMA, things are really changing, and I see a lot of signs of maturity. I see a lot of signs of a sophistication of the overall space. I see a correction towards quality. What I call the decoupling. So, a lot of it is true. We're going through a negative cycle, but the best releases, the best collections, those are not only maintaining themselves, but growing in many cases. And again, I do think that we still have many issues. We have a huge infrastructure issue. We have a huge oversupply issue, and we have a huge ethos issue. But we're going on the absolute right direction. And I would have signed anywhere, a year or two ago, to be where we are now. Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic message to end today with. Find the ways to contribute, higher and higher bar, but we are heading in the right direction. It's a powerful thing. Pablo, I think we're gonna have to do this again sooner rather than later. Let's please find the time. I would love to come and make that visit. And you showed some things today that unfortunately people didn't have a chance to see visually, but I hope we at least talked it through where they got to dream a little bit.
I love it, absolutely, and it will be my pleasure anytime. Thank you again for everything that you do. You're an incredible participant, an incredible contributor to the space, and since I met you since the beginning, it has been an absolute joy and pleasure to always have conversations with you. So thank you.
Thank you for listening and for being part of the future of art. If you liked the episode, please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite platform, and onward to the many conversations that await us. The Future of Art is produced by Artifex. Artifex, ARTIFEX, was created to honor today's top digital fine artists in 3 dimensions. Each artist's one-of-one work of art becomes a collectible 3D sculpture and centerpiece of an immersive world built in Unreal Engine, the creation tool of Epic Games. Search Artifex Viewer on Apple and download our brand new free app to experience the sculptures in augmented reality. And visit artifex.art/Unreal